We are Hubdrive. Our vision is to empower people and organizations in HR management.
So welcome to Rollup 33 partner training. I'm happy that we are all together again for another great rollup which our R&D department produced, and we are very happy and glad that we can introduce you to it and give it to you, our partners, as well as our employees, to test it, to see the new features, to work with the new features, to build solution based on them, and really make the most of it. And as always, I'm not alone. I'm here with my dear colleague Vera.
Yep, that's me. Hello, everyone.
And we will spend probably another 1.5 hours together introducing you to the new features. As always, I'd like to point out it's an interactive meeting, and that means that you can ask questions at any point in time. And any point in time means you can either just interrupt us, ask a question, or you can lift your hand, as we did last time. You know that the Teams feature on how to do so. Okay. Also, in the end, we will have a section where you can ask questions as well. So, Rollup 33 level 100 training is today. So we will introduce you to the new features and improvements of this very rollup. And next week, we have a level 200 training which goes a bit into more detail, shows you what is behind the new features, shows which flows to configure, how to configure them, how to adapt them, what to deactivate them. So next week, again, you're all invited to join us in a follow-up session, which we call level 200 for admin and implementations. Although this is dedicated to partners. For Rollup 33, you know this now, we always put on a focus. Either we are focusing on recruiting, we are focusing on administration, and this time we really put a focus on improving the product quality in itself, as well as integrations which we already have, had, and will have for the future. What does that mean? We have a new integration or an existing integration to other Microsoft Dynamics 365 app. In person, we told field service and PSA. Some of you might argue we already had this. Yes, we had this, but we changed the technology behind it, and we'd like to show you some details. Also, we added another integration to Microsoft Shifts. That's something Vera will show us later. And we have a lot of improvements in the leave and absence management there as well. Our agenda for today. Vera will give us an introduction to the Teams Shifts integration. Then I will take over and we will speak about Dynamics 365 PSA, as well as field service and leave and absence management. And then it's Vera's turn again for user interface, further important changes. And in the end, as always, I read out some solved tickets which we had, which are now solved in our product.
Okay, so thank you for this introduction, Holga. I guess it's my turn to shine. So that's exactly right. I am going to show you a little bit more on the improvements that we did to the existing integration to Microsoft Teams Shifts. So our solution, HR for Dynamics, is integrated to Teams Shifts. And this is a tool, for those of you who don't know, it's a tool that helps users to manage the work schedules of their team It makes shift planning much easier, much quicker. Absence planning also becomes much more simplified. And so we like to call it a visual planning board for HR managers as well for supervisors. And so it's really easy to plan ahead the shifts of the employees, of course, and also time off in case employees request it. So first of all, I would like to show you a bit of an introduction, let's say, to Microsoft Teams shifts. This is located, for those of you who don't know, in this little 3 dots area. This is an app called Shifts, and I have already some shifts that I assigned to the different users. We have here our lovely HR employee, manager, the admin, and in terms of planning, I can say that this is a really good functionality to add some more shifts, whichever you need, depending if you work with shifts. You could divide the different times accordingly. You can have morning shifts, afternoon shifts, half morning, whichever you would like. We can also add people to the different groups. So I have this unnamed group, which, by the way, I can also rename. So feel free to rename your groups. You can have more than one, and then this way organize your workforce better. So in this case, we can call it CSM. We can save this. We can add more people. So in this case, I already have the manager in there, the employee. I am free to add now the supervisor as well. And there he is. And it's a really easy functionality for those of you who don't know. With simple clicks, we can add shifts, we can add time offs. So with a simple double click, like you saw, I am now redirected to the form where I can enter more information about the shift. I can give it a name. I can make it an open shift that then will be assigned to a specific user. In this case, is right now being assigned to a supervisor. And then I can give it a label. So we can call it afternoon. We can say that the afternoon shift will be from 1 p.m. until 10 p.m. Why not? We can also make it a full day shift. And then there are some nice customizable features in terms of colors. So if you want to let yourself be guided by the colors of each one of the shifts, you can choose to pick the same color for each one of your labels. Then you can add unpaid breaks. You can add some notes, perhaps. In the notes, I like to usually write the time in there so it's visible for everybody. Could also be other descriptions as you like. So just a short description here, and then I would save this. And there we go, it's in there. So with a simple double click, I was able to create this shift, but also if you right click with your mouse on the specific day from Sunday to Saturday, you can also choose whether you want to add a shift or to add time off. And you probably noticed that right now this shift that I just created has a little star next to it. The font is in italics. So this means that this shift was not yet shared with the team. And so with a simple click here with share with team, you can choose whether you are sharing this with the entire team or just with the supervisor person in this case. And then after we share it, now this is published for everyone to see. So that's one of the major things that you can do. Then others, so other functions that we see here, we can add more groups. We can take a look or take an overview right away on the month. We can take a view just for today, for the week, as usual. And next to each one of the days, you see even the amount of hours that were allocated. So the amount of hours that each shift had allocated to each person. So it's a little total next to the day of the week. Same thing for the week. So you get right away a total for the week. In this case, we have 34 hours assigned already. And it's really nice when you are still thinking and planning the shifts that you still need to assign. You get also a little container here called Open Shifts, where you can add the shifts that were not yet assigned to everyone. Right, so that's one thing that you can do. You can navigate from here to there. And now a bit more on the integration that we've improved ever since. So now with the integration, the employee in HR for Dynamics becomes the team member in Teams shifts. All of the approved leave requests are transferred directly to Teams shifts, as well as in the daily summaries. As you know, we have all of the allocated work times in there. Now the shifts are also visible from the daily summaries view. And of course, as you know, if the leave request, it happens very often that the leave request gets cancelled, modified, split. Every single action that you do in HR for Dynamics related to modifying a leave request, everything gets reflected right away in Teams shifts. So let's look at it. Let's take a tour to our lovely system in HR for Dynamics, and let's create then a leave request for this specific user, HR employee. Let me pick a date. Let's maybe do a vacation entry for the 30th of April. Okay, now it's in its approval stage. Let's say that this leave request has been approved by the HR manager or by the supervisor, and now this is an entered day. As you can see, even on the absence calendar, the 30th is now approved. And so when we go back to shifts, we might need to give it a quick refresh. There we go. There's the vacation for all day on the 30th of April. Like I said, if we modify now this vacation day, actually give it a refresh because it's still not taken the approval. So there we have the modify leave request. Now let's say that for some reason this was a big mistake and now we need to cancel this leave request. It's not going to happen anymore. Reason for cancellation, because I want to. Very sassy HR manager. And then we say, and we see in this case that the leave request was cancelled. So when we go back to the shifts teams, we give it another refresh. And we can see that it's been cancelled. And you may be wondering, how does this connection, where does it come from? How come you have vacation in HR for Dynamics and as well as in here? Well, the reason is in the Microsoft Teams shifts, you can add time off as well. And it also offers you the different types of time off. So vacation, off, unpaid, parental leave, sick day. And these types of time off, you can also get them in HR for Dynamics. So when we go into the settings and we go to our usual absence type settings, if we take a look into vacation, we have now a new nice section in there called time off reasons. And we even have a flow that will retrieve all of the time off reasons from Teams shifts and get it on this side. And this way we do the mapping via the flow. So let's maybe add one for sick. I'm going to take the sick absence type setting. And in the time off reasons, okay, this one has been already taken. Let's maybe see parental leave. There we go. So it's not connected to any parental leave from Teams shifts. But as I run the flow, This will allow me to retrieve all of the time off reasons. Okay, the flow has run successfully. And in this case, now when we go into add existing time shifts, time off, we can now see the available time off reasons coming from Teams shifts that we can map to in HR for Dynamics. So in this case, I'm going to choose parental leave, add it, save it, and then I'm free to use the time off reasons on both sides. So time off reasons in shifts and in leave requests. Then other than that, like I said, the shifts, they will also be seen in the daily summaries. So this is coming from a setting that we have in here. When we look in the advanced find and we look for the Teams shifts, we can easily retrieve the shifts that we used in, or the ones that we created directly in Microsoft Teams shifts. So we have the half morning that I created, afternoon, morning, and this gets synced across to HR for Dynamics. Any questions on this?
Doesn't look like it. So my turn now. Okay. Let's move on to the next, the integration to Dynamics 365 PSA. And I like to be upfront, it's not really a direct PSA integration. It is an integration which fills the entity which are used by PSA as well as on field service. So if you speak about our PSA integration, it is also a field service integration. So the main change we did there is in the background. So based on the visibility, you will use the integration as it was for Rollup 32 or prior rollups. But we enhanced the performance because we had in the past quite a bit of on 2-minute timeouts in there. So workflows who failed because of too many requests, especially for bigger customers. Keep in mind time entries. If you're taking a 100-person company and they all forget to put a timestamp in, this can mean that we have hundreds of requests at the same time for that very customer. So we decided to move this core functionality where we need to have more resources in the background and not run into these timeouts and put them in a flow. So now we are not only confident, but we tested it and it works perfectly, that we are now having an integration which is stable even for bigger customers concerning PSA and field service. For some of you who don't know, what is the integration to project service automation doing? It is linking overall an employee to a resource which can be used in PSA field service. This very resource has an availability. Those availabilities are determined by the working hours in the employment contract. Does make sense. Also, if there is a public holiday, if there is a leave request from that very employee, the resource shouldn't be available for the dispatcher or for the project planner to give him a task on a day where he is not supposed to work. And a resource is always connected to the characteristics. We have something similar, which is called skills, skill levels, our skill concept. And for example, if you are having a project task which you like to assign where a good English is necessary, you can look for resources which has the characteristics speaking business language level 2. This is why we also transfer the skill levels into the characteristics. So you can use our whole functionality of personal development, our training modules, increasing your own skill levels, and it will automatically be transferred to PSA, which is absolutely great if you're thinking about also having the LMS 365 integration, which we introduced in Rollup 32. Meaning, if something is missing, you can give that very training in LMS 365 to that employee. He passes the test, he improves the skill level on this, and it is transferred to the characteristics, and the dispatcher can now see the resources also having this very characteristics. And last but not least, it is the time entries. In field service as well as in PSA, you are able to book times. You're also able to book times on our end on projects. We like to offer you a self-service on our end, and based on the resource, this is transferred to PSA and field service. Robert is asking if it's bidirectionally, so that you can enter or update either from field services or from HR. I have to say it depends. If it's concerning the availability and the characteristics, it is one directional, and it does make sense to have it based because it's a human resource in the HR tool where you can develop and help and train your staff members. While on the time entries, both ways are possible. Not in standard, but in configuration. Some of you never saw it, and this is why I like to show how to create a resource with that very integration. You see, I'm in a standard system. I'm having just a few employees. One of them is Paul Morrison. Nice fella up here. He's just a standard employee, and I have also two tabs open up here. One is in project service automation and is showing the resources, the active bookable resource. And one in field service, nothing special, the same view, but I just wanted to point out again, it is the same entity which both ends use. And I'm sorry for saying entities and not tables in this case. All right. In the HR management details, you have a book, you have a section which is called Project Service Automation, Create Bookable Resource. And this is by default empty. This section is only shown if you have imported the integration. If you would now click in there and switch to yes, wait for the autosave or just force it by saving it, the flow in the background will now create the resource based on that employee. And I will show you also that if you go to leave management, a lot of vacation is already in here. Some of them are even approved, and they will also be visible. The contract will have working hours. In this case, I will quickly open the work contract of Paul Morrison and go into the working hours. You will see that he has an availability. He starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 5. 8 hours each day from Monday till Friday. Could be any other work contract or work hours you like. So I hope now I spent enough time speaking, so the resources is created. Go back to the HR details, and I scroll a bit down, and I see, hey, bookable resource. There is one called Paul Morrison. I either could click on it, or because I already have it open, I open the next tab. Hit refresh, and there it is, Paul Morrison. You see the type is a user. It is a user. It's connected to the user, Paul Morrison. You see here the user is a HR employee because that very one is also the system user in on the digital personal file. You see these two sections, and you have the work hours. Not quite there, I guess. Let's give it another few minutes. To trigger, so expectation is that the work hours are also transferred to here, and they will be. Just give it some time there. United States employee, bookable resource Paul Morrison. So maybe let's trigger him. Give him a leave request. Today is always a good day. There's another one for today. That doesn't help. There we go. I will just submit it. Now it's in the next stage. And let's have this quickly done. And it is finished. So this very leave request will now be transferred over here as well. Touch wood. There it is, and you see also other leave requests are coming in at the same time. So it takes some time in the background, but it's good that it is in the background and not live to not slow your system down. But the things concerning the bookable resource will now flow in. Let's show this on another resource which I created just before the meeting, and it's Ethan Carter. And if I go on work hours, you see all the weekends in there, you see their working hours, and there is even a vacation also for the same day. This is auto-created automatically. And this, of course, is also shown and visible in the field service app, as it is using the same functionality in the background. There you go. It's the same availability, and you as a dispatcher or you as a project planner are now seeing when is someone available and when isn't he available. All of this works also time zone sensitive. Yeah. So it takes the time zone of that very user, which you can see here, which is also the time zone of the user / of the employee. So if you're looking at it, please be aware that the work hours can move for a day, for an hour, etc. Mainly because of you might have a different time zone as a user. This is a great thing because for multinational companies or in the US where you have multiple time zones, the system handles the time zone problematic automatically in the background. Before I move on to the absence management, do you like to see something? Any questions? All right. Again, you have the chance at the end of the meeting as well. So, absence management. Skills integration. Yeah, I will show you later. Now I moved on. Sorry, Robert. Absence management. In the absence management, we did a lot of improvements. Most of them are not visible to you. Why? Because they are in the background, and this is why we call this improvements and not features. You remember that from Rollup 31 on, we're working intensively adding new features or new functionalities to make our calculations in the background of absences, but as well as of attendances, as efficient and as slim as possible. Therefore, we introduced in Rollup 31.3 the functionality of an offset calculation, which is calculating two leave entitlements against each other, so that at the end of the year, there's only one entitlement left, which needs to be transferred in the new year. Also, this gives a better opportunity or a better overview to the end user and HR managers, as they don't have to take care, especially if you're thinking about overtime, which are automatically created based on the daily summaries, where you have for a year hundreds of leave entitlements. That automatically those are calculated directly against each other and also level each other in a way that you only have to take care or have to take a look at those who are not zero in the remaining column any longer. We like to split the absence management improvements in 3 sections. One of them is leave entitlement. We will take a look at the leave request and at last the absence calendar as well. We now allow the deletion of leave entitlements. Everyone knows that that in the past we prevented deletion of leave entitlement. Main reason was that if you delete a leave entitlement, it could very much be that there is an existing leave request who was usually connected to that very entitlement, and then you have a mismatch on the leave summary of the taken days to the number of leave requests you had there. This is why we prevented it, but we figured that sometimes you do a mistake. You enter a leave entitlement with the wrong amount. Some leave entitlement was wrongly added. We are now allowing the deletion of leave entitlement, but we are triggering a recalculations of all leave requests who have been originally connected to that very leave entitlement. Therefore, all leave requests are recalculated, and those recalculated will be then bound to all the leave entitlement based on the preference you set in the absence type settings. Great thing, we got a lot of questions about this. Why can't we delete this? Especially because we introduced also that you are not able to change the amount of days or of hours in a leave entitlement, I think in Rollup 29. So now we have a solution. You are allowed to delete this. We also introduced a new standard absence type in our solution. This is called excess hours compensation or over hours. This is mainly used for Switzerland, but it's quite common there. So we added it to our standard solution. If it is not important to you, don't worry about just deactivate the absence type setting and it's not available for you or your employees. As it is deactivated, we are also removing it from the option set visibility. This also has something to do with the next PCF, the add leave entitlements. We had a dialogue. We could choose the entitlement type, and all entitlement types have been shown. This is now changed. You only will be able to see the active entitlements. Showing this in your system, in that system, I'm using Paul Morrison again, and I'm talking about, if I'm going to the leave management section, about this very entitlement thing. If I want to add an entitlement, and you see a couple of entitlements in there, really a couple, you don't see an overtime entitlement in here. So if you want, you can now add it. And what I meant with you see only the active absence type is that if you deactivate them, they will be not visible in here. They used to be in Rollup 32, and to avoid that HR manager are able to enter some, we just removed them from here automatically. And here you also see the excess hours of compensation. We then can say the amount. Let's choose this one, and the validity period from here till there. Let's choose the 31st. And let's move to next year, because I want to transfer the remaining days automatically at the end of the year. Description as a guinea pig. That's a present. There you go. All right. And let's only refresh this one, and we can quickly recalculate those, and you have the excess hours. Yeah. Robert is asking if for compensatory time to allow for employees to take time off later of overtime. Yes, absolutely possible. We can transfer or auto-create based on the time tracking entitlements. And those entitlements can be taken either for a leave request or for a payout, or can be transferred for a couple of years there. And especially for those automatic generated entitlements based on the time tracking, we now change some default values. The field transfer until is now 3 months after the start date of the next fiscal year. That sounds cryptic, but as you are aware, we are defining in the employment term templates the beginning of the year of that very employment term template, meaning all employees who have that template in use will have a start date based on that term template. To not confuse you, in Middle Europe, it's always the 1st of January, but it could very well be other dates if you are having an absence year or a moved absence year, and they're basically to your fiscal year. So the transfer until will now be in standard 3 months after the start date. Of course, we are setting this with a workflow, so you can adapt it. If it's not by standard in your company 3 months after, then we can adapt it as well. And we have a new default value for overtime as an example, but it can also be compensatory per time, can other over hours, all auto-generated using time accounts or no time accounts. Entitlements will now have an end date with aligning with the end date of that very year. So could be either the 31st of December or a day before your start date in the employment term. There was a gap which we had in Rollup 32, and we fixed it. Something I'm very excited about, and probably a couple of you partners will also be excited about, is that we added a workflow that allow you to recalculate leave request on demand, which allows you also to bulk recalculate leave request. I'm opening a leave request right here. It's an approved leave request. It is not an approved, it's a canceled one. Let's choose an approved one instead. This one is approved. And before, when something looked wrong, when something was messy, when something you needed to recalculate, you had only one chance to go individually and click on modify, click on modify leave request, and then choose the dates. On the next stage, you knew this, and we always had the problem that if you are modifying that very leave request, the approval is set again, meaning that the employee got a message that his leave request was approved, as well as the supervisor got a message that he approved the leave request for this employee. So all the activities which we are automatically sending out by setting it to approval go out again. Now you can recalculate just by clicking on the flow and click on calculate leave request. And it's doing the recalculation without sending out any activity in the time. Yeah. And as mentioned, you're also able to do so in bulk, meaning it's inactive because we have inactive leave requests. Just mark the ones you want to recalculate and calculate leave request. There you go. It is recalculating. I think for us partners, it's definitely a huge step forward, as we are missing that functionality for quite some time now. And we love to have it. Thank you, R&D department. The modify leave request, which I just showed you, is now capable of also doing hourly leave request calculations. Before Rollup 33, we haven't been able to use this very PCF for everything other than cancel the leave request for hourly absence types. Now you are also able to modify the leave request with the start and the beginning and the end. So this where customers ask us quite some questions on how to do so, and we always had to come back with saying, hey, they had to be canceled. Now we are able to also modify those. Additional to the trigger that recalculate leaves request, we also trigger them automatically once a leave allocation is disconnected from a leave entitlement. This is connected to the first line, just happening automatically. If by any reason a leave allocation gets modified and doesn't contain any longer a leave entitlement, it is now triggering that a recalculation takes place, and therefore an auto reconnection to a leave entitlement will happen. Something recently come up, what we also put it in Rollup 33. It is not mentioned on the slide. It is a small surprise for you, is that we have another on-demand leave calculation. It is based on a leave entitlement. As you are aware, we introduced the offset calculation in Rollup 31, and the offset calculation was done on creation of a leave entitlement and on change of a leave entitlement. Now you are also able to recalculate the offset with that very flow to trigger on demand the recalculation of an offset leave entitlement. This comes in handy if, for example, you have two leave entitlements. One is created later by a carried forward, and you also have a leave request. And the leave request is originally connected to the wrong leave entitlement, because at the moment you approved that very leave request, it wasn't there, the other one. So now you can trigger the offset calculation, and it's auto-correcting all the already assigned leave entitlements there. Hopefully that was not too technical as of now. Let's move on to something more visible, the absence calendar. The absence calendar looks the same as before. Not quite too. It looks a bit different, but also here the main changes have been done in the background. We had trouble with the number of requests we give to the server of Microsoft to the cloud. With Rollup 33, we are reducing that very number of requests heavily, so the absence calendar will load faster and without error. You also will be able to move right to the right-hand side without having this lines not be aligned with the columns. What do I mean with it? Let's go to the absence calendar. There you go. We have 3 absence calendar, and you see how fast it loads. Technically, we are using the cache of the browser, but how this will work, we will talk about this next week, but it's loading quite fast, and the next time I will go there, it will load even faster. This is good, especially also for mobile usage. Okay.
Thank you, Holger. Very nice. So additionally to all of this that we mentioned, I want to say that in Rollup 33, we took special care, we took special attention to our user feedback. We always try to make the user interface and user experience more intuitive, the navigation also more intuitive, more user-friendly, and so that it makes, of course, more sense, and so that the forms are better organized, for example. And so with Rollup 33, there are some UI and UX improvements. Mainly, these are grouping in the HR settings area. Before we had the list of HR settings entities or tables all under a settings title. Now we have some more modules in there that makes you maybe less confused, so that you know which setting belongs to which HR module, and so the navigation is much easier. Also, the table employee contacts has been renamed to list of employees. And the colors in the license usage dashboard have been reworked so that it makes more sense and so that the corporate identity is met. Due to the deprecation of the flip switches by Microsoft, now we have toggle buttons. I'm going to show you in the next slides what exactly this means. And work patterns and time accounts now have tooltips or little texts that give you some more tips and advice in there on each one of the entities. And due to the user feedback that we heard, applicant rating, the name makes more sense, I guess, than applicant rank. So we made sure to change that as well. And now I have some before and after representations of what actually happened. Like I said before, we had all of the settings entities just thrown in there with no titles, with no labels on it. But now this with the grouping in the HR settings, you get a better idea which ones belong to time and attendance, which ones belong to employee administration, leave and absence, compensation, talent management, and so on. So this is one change that you will notice as you look into Rollup 33. Also, the employee contacts, before we had that name over there, now it's list of employees. The colors, so some of them changed, as you can see. Total HR licenses, total staff licenses, and employee licenses was green. Now it's blue to give it a more techy feel, I guess. And also the word available screams green because it's a positive thing to have available licenses to be used by employees rather than blue. This is what I meant with the toggle buttons and the flip switches. So we don't have the green one anymore. Now we are using the blue one. So just a little change in there. Other than that, we have also reworked some forms. All of the employee forms have been changed. They are a bit more reorganized. We put some boxes from one section to the other so that it makes more sense. The absence type settings forms have also been changed. I'm going to show all of this in a second. Employer profiles were changed, employment terms templates, HR manager forms, and recruiting channels. But enough of talking, let's take a look. So starting with the employee forms, I am really excited to show you how the employee digital personal file looks like, as well as the supervisor form and the employee form. So let's take once again Paul Morrison, our big friend. And you see in HR details, for example, we have now the position over there, the equipment, because it relates to the HR tasks and details. Leave management, in this case, didn't change so much. Time management was one that we thought it would make more sense to have a better overview here of the timesheets and daily summaries as they come in, so that there is more information visible right away from the time management section. This one looks very similar. The performance potential evaluation, instead of sitting there all alone in one separate section, is now under one main section called performance, as well as the performance reviews, 360 feedbacks, review details, disciplinary measures. As this all relates to performance, we have kept all of this together in here for a better and quicker access of this data. Health and safety. Now we have a specific section that relates to medical records, all of the health data and health fields that you saw before in, if I'm not mistaken, HR details. Now this all can be seen from the section health and safety. So less confusion, more intuitive. And in personal information, we have the usual personal data, as well as the job history, which relates to the jobs that were taken before. This is some information that we would take from the CV, for example, of the employees, and now this can be seen from the personal information. We are a positive meeting. We will not look at conflicts. Other than that, we can also see in the supervisor file that this has changed a little bit for the view of the supervisor of the employees. They also get the health equipment under business data directly. Here nothing changed. So the same timesheets, daily summaries, larger box is there as well. Performance also all in one. So when it comes to security, of course, nothing changed. Still, the supervisor sees the same entities and the same fields that they saw before. And I believe my self-service employee is a lady, Veronica Williams. Let's take a look at the self-service view. So there we go. Business data can all be seen from here. Still, the changes can be done in private data in case that happens. Time and attendance. So I don't know if you agree, but I at least think that it's much neater. It's a much cleaner view of each one of the forms. Then relating to employment terms. So in the employment terms, the forms have also been reworked a little bit. So here we've got now the activities and notes section for the timeline instead of having it here in the middle. And once again, the boxes are larger. As you know, there's also space here for the time account configurations in case the company uses that, and working hours are still the same, still with the same logical order and with the logical connection of the times. In the template, we also have some changes mainly related to the timeline, so we don't have a timeline there anymore, and we have a better overview of the leave entitlements, countries and regions as well. Instead of being under here, now it's more centered and it gets a quicker access through here. Then some other changes was in the absence type settings forms. Now, instead of having everything in one list, we have a more better organized form in here where we have some details on one side, some on the other. You might argue that this is I would say much better, so that you can see everything from here and do all the changes as necessary. The new section here for time of reasons, like I showed you, and the timeline. You will see now very often that we have a new section there called activities and notes, which makes it more organized across the whole solution on where to find that specific timeline, activities and notes area. Then other than that, also in the recruiting channels, there are some small changes, also better organized. We have the additional information on one side, the general on the other, activities and notes right here. In the employer accounts, also we have little changes, but that make the difference. So relationship type, if it's a partner, competitor, customer, supplier, vendor, or other. And finally, because I could go on and on and on with all the changes that we've done, let's then finish up with this time account configuration, which also looks much neater and nicer with these 3 boxes organized this way. So other than that, the list was not complete here. There are some other points. We also changed the or reworked the forms on time account configuration, integration settings, the time and attendance of employee as well, the attendance details. We changed the name of a form. It's not, and now really sorry about my German, it's not Zeitmanagement-Akte anymore, it's Zeitwirtschaft. And we also enabled the audit for all custom fields, which is very good for those of you that use the auditing for their customers. So other than that, we have some other changes coming with Rollup 33. In commissions, I would say it's also much more intuitive. We locked and unlocked some fields logically. So the ones, for example, that if we use a commission calculation of achievement times commission percent, now we've hidden the commission amount because we wouldn't need that field otherwise. And also we locked some fields so that it makes more sense based on how we are going to set up that commission. So just to show you quickly, I guess I can just go ahead and create a new commission template so you understand what I mean. Could be sales commissions, as we usually use as an example. And so as I define the data, let's say that the amount is 200 euros, very nice target. After saving and after adding a new commission level, you will see that if I go with achievement times commission percent, so each achievement will give you a percent of the commission, and then we create the usual layers or ladders of percent of target. If we say from 0% of the target to 15, that could be our ladder. If the percentage could be, let's say, 2% of the commission. As we take a look into the commission calculation and after we apply this to an actual commission, you see that because the commission amount is locked and it doesn't make sense to show it on the commission level because no actual amount was linked to it or no achievement was linked yet to the commission level, those fields are now locked and hidden. And so when you create now your commissions and commission templates, it makes much more sense and you will get a clear idea what to fill in right away instead of thinking, should I do that? Should I do that? That doesn't happen anymore. Now we've hidden everything that is not necessary. So there's a question by Robert. So how are loss leaders handled when they are part of total volume but not paid? Which leaders are we talking about? Holger now?
Robert, I'm really sorry. I don't get the question. There's probably a language barrier. I know when they...
You can come off mute, Robert.
Yeah. Just unmute yourself, Robert, and then we can discuss it directly. Initial sales are often at a loss with no profit. Yeah, sure. Okay. What we are doing is, well, we have an entity called achievements, and those achievements can be filled by external entities or Microsoft standard entities like closed opportunities, like orders, like reorders. And based on those, we can use with a workflow or a flow can create a so-called achievement. And only you would create an achievement when there's money coming in, I guess. You could also do it without money, meaning it could also be an achievement that you are participating in a training, that you are certified by Hubdrive. All of those can be achievements because it's linked to your goals, and based on the percentage, you fulfill the achievements which have been part of the negotiation, you get your commission there. And the achievement don't have to be one time. They can be, again, coming from reorders. They can have from license deals. They come from multiple points. So also profit business, which is generated, can reflect in those achievements, and then commissions are calculated based on it. Robert,
can achievements be modified by product?
Yep. The achievements can be created by everything. We're just giving you the entity and based from there. And for example, if you're using field service, you can also create achievement based on task you fulfilled.
So in the same achievement, product A, I can pay a 3% commission, and on product B, I can pay a 10% commission.
Yes.
So I can modify the commissions per product. That solves the problem. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you for that question.
Yep. If there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. We are monitoring the chat at all times. We don't want to leave any questions unanswered. That would be our nightmare. Okay, then I'll move on. So after commissions, we also improved certain things related to the employee records, and I'm very, very happy about this improvement, which is now we have a new workflow that will prevent admin users from deleting active employee records accidentally. If this happened to you in the past, don't worry anymore. You will not be able to make accidents like this anymore. So the data won't be lost anymore. And this is especially important for, I guess, HR managers that have the admin user role and they are maintaining the system with all the data. Sometimes it happens that they press the delete button accidentally, and then it's a whole panic episode, which doesn't happen anymore with Rollup 33. Then, other than that, the license assignment is now automatically deleted when the employee is deactivated. Also a great addition, saves time to everybody, because when the employee is deactivated, you don't need to go and look for the license assignment, delete it, and do the whole reassignment all over again. As soon as you deactivate the employee, the license assignment is gone as well. So kudos to the R&D team. Good improvement. Also, when it comes to apps and flows, we adjusted the apps for the security role of employee. We did some changes related to the sitemap so that the employee also gets more comfortable with the use of our self-services app. And the daily summaries are now retrieved only when there is recorded attendances. This makes it again less confusing. So instead of having a bunch of daily summaries that don't have attendances linked to it, now only when there's a attendance detail entered, the daily summary will show on the digital personnel file linked to the employee. Another big announcement, so related to the deprecation of the integration to attract and onboard. Just so you know, the integration to Dynamics 365 talent apps attract and onboard are deprecated because Microsoft is retiring these apps on the February 1st, 2022. And connected to that, this also means that some of the entities that were coming from attract and onboard will no longer be supported by us in Rollup 33. For example, the candidate work experience and education, job applications, job openings, all of these entities that were in or still are attracting on board until they are deprecated, they will no longer be supported in Rollup 33. Another small change, I guess, with the solution package deployer. As you probably remember, there is some base data that you can import as well. Usually this base data included the employment terms templates. We had a little full-time UK template, full-time US template. They have been removed now from the automatic import, which gives, I guess, more freedom to HR managers to create their own templates that match better their processes, as well as skills and skill grades. Very often, companies, of course, have their own skill management portfolio, and those skills that we had there before, business English, conflict management, is not used by everybody. So this way we are removing this limitation and letting the HR manager take full control and create their own base data from the very beginning of their implementation. Before we move, I guess, any questions so far?
Yeah, thank you, Vera. Let me just add, if you have a customer who is by any chance still using Attract and Onboard, please talk to us before you import Rollup 33, because it's still possible till next February to use those entities. We are just no longer supporting those with our standard product. Main reason, we have rarely there are rarely customers out there who are still using those products as they are already replaced with our solution, or that there are rarely talent users who have an integration up and running there. And for Dynamics 365 HR users who always use that, those entities haven't been available anyway. But this is one reason why we removed it. Please talk to us if you still need them and need to want to import Rollup 33, which I can understand. That's a rollup I want to import. Okay. If there are no further questions, we come to my favorite section, the selection of solved product tickets, and I read them out and explain them quite quickly. Hopefully that you never interfere with some of them. That would mean that you never run into a product bug. Keep in mind, this is just a selection. There are multiple tickets, sometimes with the same content from different customers. We just have the selection in here. We didn't allow to create with the add leave entitlement PCF a negative entitlement. We are now allowing those. The dialog created entitlement was transferred to new period are now set with an expiration date equal to the end date. It used to be the same thing, which lead to the problem that if you're creating or add a leave entitlement, the end and the transferred expiration date was the same. Therefore, you couldn't transfer them, and the business rule kicked in. We solved this earlier. We talked about auto-generated leave entitlements, which now have new default values. We have an offset calculation trigger now, as spoken before, especially for customer where entitlements existed before the offset calculate or offset functionality was introduced. You now have the option to just trigger the offset calculation on demand, so you no longer have that problem. The leave request doesn't get reconnected with a leave entitlement that ends first. So the idea was that if you have multiple leave entitlements which are having the same preference, we are now preferring the one which has the earliest end date. They are no longer booked out while having other entitlements. We have a fix for something really, really funny. We had rare cases where Dynamics 365 HR integrations, the gender was automatically changed. So we created a female employee coming from recruiting. It went over to Dynamics 365 HR. There some changes happened, and it came back, and suddenly that female half an hour ago is now a male. This is fixed now with Rollup 33, but keep in mind it has been rarely the case that this happened. Supervisor role, access to attendance detail view. The supervisor now has that very access to the attendance detail view. Didn't used to be the case, now they have. We have a leave request. Dates are locked after putting substitute in first. So when you created a leave request and you used our best business process flow, including the substitute, and you put in the substitute first, the fields locked where you are able to choose a date when you want to go on vacation. This is no longer the case. We are now basing it on the phase the leave request is in. We have therefore also changed the usability of a leave request, especially of the substitute leave request. We had cases where you couldn't, as an employee who just entered a leave request with a substitute, leave that very form because the substitute field was mandatory. The approval field was mandatory, and therefore you had to click on the left-hand side menu and click also discard changes, even though you just wanted to leave that very form. The same thing happened with the usability with the finish button. We now have a finish button in the leave request, meaning you can click on it. We had an issue with a plugin who threw a duplicate error for skill levels. If you created an employee from a very application and that had multiple applications or etc., we threw an error because technically there really was a second skill level of the same type. It's no longer thrown that error, it's merged now. Time and attendance standards role is missing privileges. Yes, we had some standard role on BPF missing. All of you know we have an employee time and attendance role, and this one wasn't able to see the business process flow on the timesheets, how to enter those. Was a quick fix in the product, but also individual for each customer, because it's just adding that one little bubble to the security role. We now made sure that the overtime, which is based on time accounts, keep in mind you are now in liberty since Rollup 32 to use our time account functionality to put thresholds in there to not calculating overtime on a daily, but instead on a weekly or monthly base. And this didn't create always a leave entitlement. Well, now it does. And we had a ticket about that the vacancy name is changed on the change of the department. It didn't, it does now. So if you're choosing not to put in the department first, keep in mind the vacancy name is automatically created, and it has a department in there, and once you change the department, even before publishing, it never changed the name again. Now it does. Then we have time account configurations. The time unit field is still editable when the time account configuration is valid. Yeah, it was still editable. It is no longer editable. Basically says that. Then we have a calendar feed availability. Remember, we had when you created a calendar, we had a field for unavailable and available. And this field is now removed from the form because we only had functionality behind unavailable. So we didn't want to confuse our customers, therefore we removed it. And another mistake which we had prior is that on the creation of an employment from a hired applicant failed in the integration to Dynamics 365 HR. Please, here I'm missing about details. If you know that very ticket number, check it. It's now fixed with Rollup 33. Unfortunately, there's a second page to it. And keep in mind, this is still only a selection of solved product tickets. And it was the main focus of Rollup 32 and Rollup 33 is to really enhance the product quality which we have. This is why product bugs or gaps have been a big or the real big feature of Rollup 33. The applicant score on the application form is now showing the correct values. It was showing the values, but on the other way around. Now we have it correctly. We had a couple of PDF files which haven't been available in the preview functionality, which we introduced in Rollup 31. There are now no PDFs which we can't open with that. Touch wood. Number of import templates created by Hubdrive solution is too high. That is a ticket where we used to use import templates for certain functionalities to not run into the problem of a 2-minute timeout of Surface, especially for on-prem customers, but also for online customer. One of those examples is a rollout of time summaries, timesheets, and daily summaries once a month with the flow. The flow is actually creating an import template, including all active employees, and then we are importing the data. So what we did now is that all of those import templates which we created, after the import is conducted, we will delete it. Therefore, you will no longer have import templates which are auto-created from us that are no longer in use because we are automatically deleting them after we use them. And next time we create them new, but as it's automated process, it all runs in the background, so it doesn't interfere with your normal import template, especially Excel import templates. We had quite a funny mistake. As you know, we have a position functionality, and in HR Hub and HR Hub recruiting and all the other HR hubs, we have you have the possibility to request a position and also to fill a position, to see open positions, to deal with those positions. Those are also transferred to Dynamics 365 HR. But in the HR Hub recruiting, we put the wrong positioning in the sitemap. We put the Microsoft standard positioning in there. Therefore, it looked different than in the other HR Hubs. And we have a way now to time account recalculate over time over hours calculation. This is directly connected to our new feature of time accounts, which we still consider even in Rollup 33 as a preview feature. Please use it as intensely. It is great. We like to get more experience with it. And we have the work pattern that we have a field in there that the leave hours on holidays must be 0. If we have the field in the work pattern is switched ignore public holidays to yes, it should be 0. This ticket is now fixed, this one. Whew. Let's breathe a bit. And now it's once again time to thank our R&D department headed by August Hoxer. Again, they did a great job with Rollup 33, and they are working hard on improving our product, and we like to ask you to help us with it. Therefore, from now on, actually since 1.5 weeks, I believe, we are giving the Rollup 33 RC release candidate to you, our partners. You can import this in one of your test systems and customer test systems. Please don't import it in a production environment and test it. And please, if you see anything which doesn't work, which should work different, if you have an idea on do something better, please write us. Always write us, but especially for Rollup 33, we like to do your changes and do your findings before the final release of Rollup 33 end of May for customers. So if you would be so kind to just give us all your feedback till the 14th of May to the email address rolluptickets@hubdrive.com with August Hoxer in CC, as he wants to be informed about all the feedback and all the things you like to have changed. We would be very, very glad. And this is it, Rollup 33. We are looking forward to your questions. Well, this is not the case, so thank you very much for joining. I hope you like Rollup 33. Thank you, Vera, for supporting me there. As always, good job. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. And not only in the Rollup 34 release, but earlier than that. Thank you.